It looks like we're recording. You're all set then, Randy?
Yep.
Okay. All right, let me call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Today is Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. And we are Zooming. We've got some audience, which is great. We are missing one board member, medical reason. And it is 6:30. I don't know if I said that. So if you want to do the pledge, Randy?
Okay, let me put the thing on the screen here. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag for the United States of America, for the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. All the adaptations we have to make with the COVID. And just for the public, we will be doing, when we do motions tonight for the board, we are doing roll call votes. It takes a little bit longer, but since we're remote, we want to make sure that everybody's accounted for when they vote. And when we do the roll call for the attendance, we'll also say where we are, where we're sitting tonight at our computers. So go ahead, Randy.
Okay, trustee Everson is absent and excused this evening. Trustee Winslow,
Here, Marquette Township.
trustee Marks,
Present, Marquette Township.
trustee LaRue,
Present, Marquette Township.
treasurer Johnson,
Present. It's me.
clerk Rattari is present in beautiful Marquette Township. Supervisor Durant.
I'm in beautiful Powell Township. I am here. Thank you.
Okay, staff present tonight is our manager, John Kangas, our attorney, Roger Zappa, our assessor, Dulcie Ranta, our planner, zoning administrator, Jason McCarthy, staff planner, Ryan Dietrichson.
Excellent. Thank you. How about any emails for public comment, Randy?
I have none.
Okay. Is there anyone on this Zoom that would like to address the board before we get started with our agenda? Okay, we'll move on then. Just want to make sure. All right, tonight's consent agenda consists of regular meeting minutes of January 19th, 2021. And we have bills payable tonight in the amount of $104,412.54. Utility billing calendar is in here for February in the packet. And notice of hearing for the gas customers of Semco Energy, case number U-2822. Nothing from Charter. That's unusual. So I need approval for the consent agenda.
Move for the approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second,
Hey, we got lots of seconds. Randy,
Lots
roll.
Okay. Motion was to approve the consent agenda as presented. Trustee Marks,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Okay, if I may, I would like to add an item to the community linkage number 7. It is just for informational purposes only. And Mike Springer has some guests and some information from the Iron Ore Recreation Authority meeting that he did this week or last week. And he is, if you remember, our liaison as alternate to the Heritage Trail Board. And he did attend that last meeting because Glenn Johnson was not available. So it worked out good. So in the future, just so the board knows, we will add Mike's report for the Heritage Trail to the agenda following whatever the Heritage Trail meets. So we'll just kind of get on track starting tonight, but he does have something that he wants to share with us on some acreage in the township. So we'll add that to committee linkage if we can have approval for the amended agenda.
So
So
moved,
moved.
so moved.
Second.
Third.
Okay, roll call, Randy?
So the motion is to approve the regular agenda as amended as we're adding to number 7, community linkage, R&R Heritage Trail informational update. Here comes Mike now. Okay, so roll call is Clerk Rattari is yes. Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent. We do have an amended agenda.
Thank you for that. I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest. And we don't have any board education or privilege comment, although this could be board education too, but Mike is online right now. So are you ready, Mike, or do we need to give you a minute?
Excuse me, Lynn, I didn't realize we're going to be up this quick. So, yes, Mr. Rattari, do you have the visuals?
I will look here. Michael, did you email them to me, I think?
I did, yes. And there's either PDF or there's a PowerPoint presentation.
I have it, Randy, if you'd like me to share my screen.
Yeah, it's in the Google Drive. I'll let John take
I'm
care of it.
assuming this is the William and Esther Koski property presentation in PDF format.
That works, yes.
Okay, John, you can share your screen now.
Does everyone see that?
Yep.
Is that the correct one, Mike?
Let me see here, because somehow I'm not seeing what's wrong here. Am I still on?
Yeah, we can
We're
hear you,
on.
Mike.
Okay. All right, here we go. Yes. Can you start at the top, please, and expand your screen?
This is full screen. I can probably,
Okay, that's actually, that's not the first slide. Can you go to the first slide?
that is the first slide of the document you sent me.
That's the same one I have that you sent me.
Okay, guys. Yeah, there we go. We're getting into some of it. So there's more than one slide. There should be like 25 slides.
That's a
This
picture.
one has 12.
All right, hold on, guys. Let me, can you go on for a few minutes while I get mine up?
Why don't you let Michelle talk about her project?
Well, we got a plan here. How about if we just,
Well, this is
hold
the
on here,
the
guys. Let
first
me-
slide that I have too, what you sent me.
Okay, dang it.
I can, Mike, if you want, I can kind of start and just explain how this opportunity came about while you find the maps and things that you had. You
Go
want to do,
No, that would be great.
okay.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So my name is Michelle Schwemmen, and I live at 906 West Bluff Street in Marquette, Michigan. And I am the granddaughter of William and Esther Koski. And my mother is Carol Schwemmen, and my aunt is Joyce Britton. And Carol and Joyce inherited about 200 acres from my grandfather about 22 years ago. Most of it is in Marquette Township, and there is a little bit in Negaunee Township. And how this opportunity came about is one day, Lori with the NTN just walked into the Quick Stop bike shop that my partner works at. And Lori and my partner Nevin started just talking about this piece of property that my family owns and the potential for the property to be preserved, and also the opportunity that it presented to connect some existing networks of trails in our community. There's a little sliver of the property that has some iron ore heritage trail that runs through a corner of it. Next thing you know, Lori was calling Carol from the iron ore heritage trail. And here we have, I think we're back to where we wanted to be. These are some photos of the day when we walked the land. We were joined by Carol with the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. We also had Don Britton with us, Nick Leach of Negaunee Township. We had Nick Jensen with the NTN and Lori Hosworth with the NTN. And then myself and Nevin, we walked the land for about 4 hours and walked some of the old logging roads and took a good look at the property. My grandfather bought this land in the 30s for, I believe, about $200, and his hope was to see it remain natural. He bought it for hunting and recreational purposes. So these are all the folks that walked the land with us. If you could go to the next slide. This is just an aerial shot of the property, and Mike does have some maps that he'll share of where it is specifically.
I'm not sure if we have time for the whole video.
You can skip the video, John, that's fine. Thank you. So the family's vision for this property is we envision a non-motorized trail network on the property for hiking, biking, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, that also expands and connects existing trail networks in the surrounding areas together. We envision a trail system that provides outdoor recreation for the community while helping to promote individuals' physical, emotional, mental, spiritual health and well-being. Our family envisions a memorial for William and Esther Koski, trailhead signage in remembrance of them, perhaps the Koski Trails. And our family envisions the property remaining natural and preserved for all to enjoy forever. You want to take it from there, Mike?
Yes. Next slide. Actually, let me just back up here. So can I share my screen? Mr. Kangas?
Should be able to, Mike, if you could share your screen, you should get it now.
All right, thank you. So thankfully, Michelle was here with passion about this. This is, I just have the nuts and bolts. asked by Supervisor Durant to be the alternate to the the Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority Board. And at the last meeting last Wednesday night, Glenn Johnson couldn't be there. So I get to be a voting member, and we voted unanimously to pursue this project. So, but without Marquette Township's support, and we're actually looking for letters of support. We're not looking for anything financial. Hopefully you'll move this to, having been a former member of the rec committee, hopefully you'll move that to the rec committee, and or as former planning commissioner to the planning commission, and have them vet this and bring it back to the board if you think it needs to be done that way. So basically we're talking about potentially property for public use. This is from the plat map. You can see the properties that are within our township, and also the 40 that is also in Negaunee Township. In this map, as Michelle mentioned, there's a little mile marker there, and that is actually that place where the viaduct goes over and the shelter is, so the pictures that she showed you. So this is the property we're looking at. It's south of Northwoods subdivision. It's north of Mason's Bluff, and it is to the west of Bishop Woods. So in the current land use map, it just shows that this is currently woodland. In the official zoning map, this is rural residential. In our future land use map, which I had the opportunity to be part of, it indicates that this will stay in rural residential. And Mr. McCarthy and I had an email today, and he says there should not be any problem. The way I understand it, that this would be moved into, or just would stay that way and still be able to use. So I did some research here on the total amount. We're looking at 79.6 acres in the eastern parcel owned by Ms. Britton. Western parcel is 74 acres. Marquette Township total acres is 154 acres. And Michelle and her family would like to keep 20 acres of the most eastern portion of those properties in Marquette Township for her family, for the future. So as you look at the picture there, the blue is in Negaunee Township. The green rectangles would be everything in Marquette Township minus the yellow, which is approximately 20 acres. So that would be 134 acres in Marquette Township that would be available, 40 acres in Negaunee Township that's available. Potentially, it would be 174 acres total for public use. So this is where Michelle took over. And it's really these people: Carol Fulcher, Don Britton, Lori Halsworth, Nick Jensen, Nicholas Leach, Michelle, and Nevin Brownell that put this together. So Michelle has talked to you about this. There's history here too. And one of the things I learned early on in planning was that there's a big passion for historic tourism. People want to know about what happened here years ago. It looks like it was a good hunting place at one time. And here, the best way to end a presentation is with a love story. And so there's a love story here that began the properties that the Schwemmans and the Brittons now have. And if you read in closely, that love story is about the love of the land and what we can do for the people that also love it. So that's a presentation for tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Could I jump in just 1 second? This is Carol. I'm calling in.
Hey, Carol, sure, go ahead.
So the reason we're getting involved in this is because we have access to trust fund monies. And we see a long-term goal of single track trail between Marquette and Negaunee that this could help us build. So the owners have been so good to say that they would donate 25% of the land as part of the match for the trust fund dollars, so that all of the money we get from the trust fund would go to the owners to purchase this land and put it into recreational land. So it's a great opportunity for us to open up some other recreations along that corridor. We are flexible enough to be able to take this on, but we would like to, we would like to put in for a trust fund, but we would like the blessing of Marquette Township, because we don't like to go in and buy property or take property if you are not supportive, because you're a member of ours. So we really wanted to bring this to your attention. Trust funds are due on April 1st. I'm not sure how, but even if we got the money, and I think this is a good application, this would not happen until 2022, by the time this all sorts its way through the grant process. But the land is beautiful. It's landlocked. You know, they are landlocked land. We think it'd be great recreational property. So that's why we're here with you guys tonight, to see what your feelings are. And if you would, you know, approve us going forward, or have some suggestions or whatever to go forward with this.
If I may clarify one point, this is no financial commitment to the township. We're not asking for any money from the township.
Nope.
I just want to clarify.
Letter of
Yeah,
support really wouldn't hurt.
Letters of support.
Absolutely.
Certainly notifying and involving your rec committee and your planning commission.
Well, you can use this as one of the presentations too toward the grant.
Yes.
Document this. John, I see your hand up.
Hello. Did you call on me, Lynn?
Nope, sorry, the manager, John. I've only got a partial screen with what's on the screen. I can only.
So the only point I was going to make when Carol mentioned that this property is landlocked, it does connect to the easement that the existing heritage trail runs through. So there is a connection there that makes sense from a recreational perspective.
Dulce, I see your hand up.
That was the only reason why I was raising my hand. It's like John was reading my mind. I was just worried about it not being landlocked and that they would have access, you know. So that's all I was wanting to make sure too. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Marks, did you want something too?
I did. I think we, first of all, we ought to appreciate what's being done here. And I think the board recognizes that this is a serious effort on their part to make this a better community than we found it. I think that what could happen would be a movement by us to send this proposed Koski Trail to our planning department for them to look it over and give us some greater detail as to who all ought to be involved with it at the township. I think we should say thank you, but I think we should have our planning department and the people involved take a look at this and see what needs to be, who needs to be alerted in our township. And we could use their input to help us along, well, as we thank them, but let's be careful.
Okay, Jason?
Well, because of the persistence of Mr. Springer, we
Go
kind
ahead,
of already
Jace.
did.
I don't know how stable I am.
Oh, okay. Because of Mr. Springer's persistence, we've kind of already vetted this a little bit. If you want to know, you're in the middle of what is a bunch of other rural residential development. So to have something like that in the middle of everybody, if you will, on that south end, and for the enjoyment of visitors from afar, I would have to, I guess, talk to Ryan, but I'm pretty sure we supported this project from the get-go. And the tax implications, because you are going to take the property effectively off the tax roll, but and Dulcie could probably run those numbers, but we're thinking it's probably pretty minimal because they've owned the property for so long, and it is vacant land with not a lot of potential, I guess, without access for development. So anytime we believe anytime, and the master plan supports it as well, anytime you can add recreation land to your the books, if you will, it's a very important thing from maintaining and attracting young families.
But so you're saying that the commission already did kind of talk about this?
Well, the planning commission didn't, but I mean, all they're asking for is a letter of support, right? I don't know that it needs to. I'm sure there's some time contingency to it. They need to get their application together. If we can move it along, great. I don't know that it needs to run through all of the committees and stuff, but we've looked at, from a zoning standpoint, it works. I sent a email off to Manager Kangas indicating that open space and trails were permitted uses in rural residential. There probably are some development limits on the property due to topography and having the power line nearby, et cetera. So we didn't see it as being an adverse development for the community, let alone the township.
Okay, Ernie?
The question I have is, because it's a landlocked property, how are you going to get to the property, and who's going to be responsible for creating the trail or the roads into it? If you have any tourists coming in want to go in there, how is that going to be handled in that, if it's landlocked in that?
Well, that'll be handled like anything else. They just mentioned the connection to the R&R Heritage Trail right of way, if you will, dedicated right of way. So there is, the ability to connect there. Obviously, there's a driveway off of Smith, coming into Smith off of 41. Maybe there's something they can work out there in the future once that, gravel extraction is taking place or is done with. There's all kinds of partnerships that can be drawn upon to make this happen. The biggest thing is whether or not it gets the support of the community to move forward. Those things are all ancillary, in my view.
Thank you, Jason. When I said landlocked, I meant that there's no road access, but there's access off the Heritage Trail. So I guess I should clarify that.
And from a practical standpoint, there is access, but from a development standpoint, being landlocked, the value is actually less, clearly.
Mr. Marks?
Through the chair, I thank Mr. McCarthy for his contribution. And I think at this time, what we should do is move to give tentative approval for the proposed Koski Trail development. And that'd be enough for now.
We're just gonna draft a letter of support, that's all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if we need to do approval or not, but.
Well, I would ask for one step further if they request that, in that oftentimes if a community, and obviously you saw by the list of folks who are involved with this, and I'm sure that the township would like to be supportive of it too, whether it be staff time to help out with the grant or whatever. But anytime you have a grant that has multiple municipalities being involved in it, that's highly regarded.
I see another hand. Yeah, John Kangas?
So when this first came to our attention, I did have Dulcie get me the numbers on the properties regarding what the current tax revenue is. And just so everyone knows, if it does come off the tax roll, it's not going to break the township. We're talking $1,329 less a few pennies for the current year. So, and 20 acres of that would remain on the tax roll, of course, according to the proposal that you've seen today. So I don't think this is a make or break issue for the township. It's a matter of if the township sees the value in adding a significant recreational opportunity within your jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's the value. Exactly.
And that's really what the current owner's desire is. So even if there might be a lost economic opportunity in the property, it's not what the landowner's desire is. So we can't really assume that there's a lost economic opportunity. So I guess that's really the only point from me that I wanted to make.
Okay, Pete?
My concern is after you start talking about it, when you talk about landlocked and in case of emergency, and Carol said they can come off of the iron ore trail, and that's the only why my concern is if something happens. If you want to promote recreation in there, you also have to take care of if something happens or something, can we get in there for emergencies?
Good point. Miss Michelle?
I just wanted to say that my family did sell 40 acres in Nagani, and in that deed, there was a recreation easement written into that deed, which would be part of what the Iron Ore Heritage Trail would hope to get, would be that 40 in Nagani that goes right into Marquette. So I think even though that's not in Marquette County, I believe that that is a possible easement to get into the Marquette Township portion.
That's good information. Randy?
It looks like you're just looking for a letter of support, so I will move to have the supervisor draft a letter of support for I guess it'd be the Iron Ore Heritage Trail in acquiring this property on behalf of Marquette Township.
Support.
Okay, any other comments, board members? Okay, roll call, Randy.
Okay, so the motion is to have the supervisor draft a letter of support for the Iron Ore Heritage Rec Authority to acquire this property. And on behalf of Marquette Township, and the roll call vote is Clerk Rattari is yes. Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes,
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Well, thanks to the board too for your patience in throwing that in on the agenda since it wasn't really scheduled, but again, it was for information purposes. And I really appreciate Mike putting that together and bringing Carol and Michelle. That's good information. So I will get something put together and get it off to everybody that needs to this week.
Thank you.
Let's see, today's
Thank you so
Tuesday, yeah, I should be able to do that. Okay, thank you much. Onward. Okay, we've got committee updates. The first one is to consider recommendation of Tom Fury to Recreation Committee for a 2-year term. I received Tom's name and application a couple weeks ago. Finally had a chance. We kept missing each other for a while there, and had a chance to have a nice visit with him. He's got lots of energy, lots of recreation background, and he's dying to join the Recreation Committee. So I did ask him a bunch of questions, and I'm excited to have a new member. Tom, did you want to share any of your expertise and your knowledge with the board and just kind of introduce yourself at all?
I just wanted to say hi, and I'm sitting in tonight, but I'm trying to run around at the moment chasing my kids. But
That's
no,
okay.
I'm just looking forward to helping out.
Okay, so it's my recommendation that we appoint Tom Fury to the Recreation Committee. He's asked for a 2-year term, which would give him through December of 22. Yeah, because it'd be 21 and 22. So if the board has no objection, that would be my motion to accept or to recommend that we appoint him.
I'll second it.
Okay, comments or questions for Tom or?
No, it's nice that he's gonna get everything done in 2 years. That's great.
Good deal.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay, then, roll call, please, Randy.
Okay, the motion is to approve Tom Fury to the Recreation Committee for a 2-year term. So Supervisor Durant,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes,
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes,
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes,
and Clerk Rattari is yes. Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Hey, thank you and welcome, Thomas. So because that's an arm of the Planning Commission, that falls to, I suppose, Jason as far as staff or the chair to get information, meeting dates and information to him. I've got his application. I'll get that to Andra tomorrow. So you'll have phone number and everything, all that contact information for him and get him rolling.
Yeah, we'll get him a rec plan and a meeting schedule, and we've already had a couple discussions about trying to get him up to speed. So yeah, Ryan and I will lock him in.
Okay, sounds great. All right, I did ask Tom Bronkin too to zoom in a little bit since we're kind of on committee updates. I thought he'd be here, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't really actually put it on the agenda. But he's our library liaison, if you remember, so he wants to give us an update on their last meeting, and if we have any questions or issues that we want to present to the library board, then we can go through him too. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you. You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This will be pretty quick. I attended, observed a meeting last week of the board of the library. It was mostly an organizational meeting. They did go over their fiscal year, which ended on September 30th. And unofficially, because they haven't had their audit yet, their revenues did exceed their expenditures by $12,000. And generally during that pandemic, their operational revenues have been down, but also they've been able to match that with their operational expenditure decreases. And now they're 1 quarter into the new fiscal year, and that same pattern is continuing. Revenues are down, but they're being matched by expenditure decreases, so they're still in the black. Mostly it's personnel costs because they've not opened as many hours, and there are some unfilled positions as well. They have, starting the 25th of January, they started allowing some limited access into the library, afternoons Monday through Saturday now. And they're continuing though their curbside pickup, which was fairly well used. They're going to continue to do that on Tuesday through Friday for a couple hours each morning for the people that don't want to take the risk of going into the library. There was also a report from Youth Services, which has kind of managed the transition from doing things in-house to online, much like the teachers in the community have. They're having trouble at measuring their statistics exactly because they never know when somebody's tuning in, whether that's 1 person or 4, but they're estimating that the total number of attendances, that's when they count the same person more than once if they came to more than 1 presentation. They estimated their total attendances at about 14,000 during the pandemics, which is pretty good. They had a summer reading program also, which had 702 kids sign up for it, and they handed out 1,381 books to those kids. So the survey is still out there. People want to, if you see somebody and they're interested, have them fill that out. And I think that's all the report I have, other than if you have anything you want me to bring to the library, I'll try to keep track of that and make sure that it is brought up at their board meetings. They meet once a month. And I guess the best way, Lynn, do you think it'd be for them to, if somebody has something they would like to convey, they get it to you and then you and I talk before the meeting?
Yep, that would be great. And I can't remember now. It's the same night as our meetings, right? Tuesday?
Yeah, so I may be kind of disorganized when I rush to your meeting after that. So,
Yeah, we had to do that when I was
practically on top of
following
you.
meetings too.
Yeah.
It's even worse now. Sorry. It's worse now because we start at 6:30 and before we started at 7. So it's a little harder, but as long as we stay in touch, that's okay. That's what matters.
Well, and they meet every once a month, so I can also bring the report at the in-between meeting that you have.
Yep. And theirs is the second meeting of the month, right? Our second meeting, or is it the first one? I don't remember.
It's the third, it's whatever the third Tuesday of the month is.
Okay, so that's our second meeting. Okay, so you could give a report then for the first meeting of the month.
Okay, I can do that.
Our first Tuesday. Okay, I'll make a note to add you to the agenda. Okay, good deal. Anything from the board? Do you want to ask Tom or have him pass on? We'll coordinate our dates a little bit better for February, March. Okay, sounds good. Well, thanks, Tom. We appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Say hi to Andrea for us.
I'll do that.
Okay. Okay, we don't have any draft committee reports tonight. We can move on to the body of the agenda. Review and authorize purchase of recycling carts. Thinking this falls to Ryan.
Hey, Lynn, could I step in for?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're up for 1 minute. Under
Yeah, go ahead.
community reports on the bottom. The events committee is still looking at doing our car show, community days, and also Christmas tree lighting in Santa for 2021. So there'll be modifications, but we're still trying to work on that to fulfill that. So just let everyone know that what we're trying to do.
Okay.
John has more information, so.
Yeah, real quick, just so everyone knows, there is something else being proposed that may be on your next agenda. We'll see if that gets put together in time or not.
Okay. I'm going to switch my internet connection again once more to something else and see if I can get stable. Give me about 20 seconds here. Okay, that's for right now. Recycling carts. Ryan, that falls to you.
Yeah, is our connection good? All good? As everybody knows, and I guess for those that don't, the board approved a couple of grants, one from Eagle, the state, and another private organization, the Recycling Partnership, for the procurement of recycling carts for the township to purchase, get reimbursed for, and then provide to current garbage customers free of charge. So at the November meeting, the board approved staff to work on those grants and to sign the grant agreements. They also approved for the purchase of those carts, and we had a quote from the cart provider at that meeting. Since then, the quote from Cascade has fluctuated just a little bit. in the amount of about $300. So it increased by about 300. They had to do with some assembly and delivery costs. But Marquette Township, we're going to coordinate with Ishpeming Township on cart delivery. So the changes are pretty minor. The total cost is $69,050, and that's coming from the solid waste fund. So we have that in front of you guys tonight just to do a final consideration and authorization before we actually pull the trigger on that, because we are now at the point where ordering carts does make sense. Ishpeming Township has signed their agreement, and we're looking to do that as soon as possible.
Okay, I saw a handout. Go ahead, Mr. Marks.
I move that we concur with the staff planner and authorize the purchase of recycling carts in the amount of $69,050.
I'll second that.
Question. Is it 69 or 59, Ryan?
69. 69.
Okay, we've got motion and support. Ernie? Excuse me.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay. Ernie doesn't have a packet, so he's kind of winging it. I gave him the highlights last night. Okay, anything else?
No, I would.
Cool. Thank you, guys. We'll keep you updated.
Okay. Roll call, Randy?
Okay, so the motion is to approve the purchase of the recycling carts for an amount not to exceed $69,050, I believe. Look at that. $69,050, and the roll call vote is trustee Marks,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
clerk Rotari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next up is to consider the Township Impala as a surplus asset. That falls to manager John.
Yep, it's that time of the rotation in the county sheriff's department cycle to replace their vehicle. That means we will be getting the vehicle that they are retiring. It's a Dodge Charger. And for those that will recall, this replacement is actually coming a little later. I think our vehicle had to be replaced due to an accident sometime in its history. I wasn't here when that happened, but we will be getting an all-wheel drive Dodge Charger, which means the current Impala that we have will become surplus. We've looked at the Kelly Blue Book value, and we had estimated previously that minimum bid of $5,000 would probably be appropriate, and that's right in the ballpark. So we're recommending that it be declared surplus, advertised to the highest bidder with a minimum of $5,000.
So moved. So moved.
Part.
Okay. How do we advertise that? How does the public find that out? Is it in the newspaper, or is it a mailing of some kind, or?
So we could advertise it in the newspaper, but that's going to come right off of the top of any revenue you generate. Last time when it was the DPW truck, I believe we advertised it on our Facebook page, and I think maybe Andra sent the email blast of it as well.
And on our website too, John, on our website.
Oh, and on our website, right.
The word gets out, I'll believe her, the word gets out fast.
Okay. How are these sealed bids then, or just you open them all and then whoever has the highest bid, starting at 5,000?
Yep, we set a deadline of time, and then Clerk Rotari and I or somebody will open them. We will put a bid tab together. We'll establish who the minimum bidder is, and or the highest bidder is. We will notify the highest bidder, see if they're still interested in honoring their bid. If they are, then we'll give them, I forget what the period is, but it's not that much time to get here with their money and take their vehicle.
Okay, and it's parked at the hall still, so they could drive by and see it?
It would be, yes. It is not currently because we hadn't taken the action yet, but it's prepped
Okay.
and ready to go. And given nobody's really working in the office currently on a regular basis, we can get it rolling tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds good. So that should be pretty informative for the public. Any other board comments? Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Okay, so the motion is to consider the township Impala surplus asset. And the roll call vote is Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
And just so everyone knows, when we advertise that as is. So they're bidding on it as they see it. We will not make any other modifications to it.
Okay. All right, consider adoption of a marijuana fee schedule. If you remember at the last meeting, we passed ordinances and text amendments and everything else for different parts of the marijuana laws. And now we have a fee schedule. Jason, I'm thinking that falls to you, correct?
Well, yeah, Ryan and I,
Okay.
we had discussion with Roger as well. You know, everybody in the area is charging $5,000 per license, and then they're not charging $2,500 for the annual review, but I had initially offered a lower number, but after discussions with Ryan and Roger and what other folks are doing around our area, and to keep it somewhat consistent, but to be competitive for Marquette Township, we did up it to $2,500 for the renewal. I believe Roger, if he would like to, but he can attest to, I guess, the amount of administrative work that these take. There is a little bit more involved. Actually, there's a lot more involved because they're all conditional uses, neighbor notifications similar to, you know, other special uses, but certainly an extra amount of administrative work to conduct these. And then I would offer Roger to provide any comment that he had, or Ryan.
That pretty much summed up my input. Is this is going to be a very labor intensive project for processing applications, conditional use permits and so forth, considerably more so than, let's say, a short-term rental application that might come in, or some of the other types of applications we see. This is a very involved, labor intensive project. And as a practical matter, it's very seldom that the fee that is charged actually covers all of the time and input of staff who handle those applications. It's designed to help offset some of those expenses incurred. But if you were to really sit down and analyze how much staff time is spent on a lot of these types of projects, you would probably be surprised at the number of hours that go into that.
Marks?
Move to concur with the planning department recommendation and approve the proposed marijuana fee schedule.
Part.
Okay, comments, questions? Okay, go ahead, Randy.
So the motion is to approve the marijuana fee schedule, and the roll call vote is Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Well, thank
Okay.
you. And thanks to Ryan too. We have an application and a checklist in place. And this was kind of the final step for us to be able to administer these. So I suspect you'll be able to, well, you will see a few come up here in the next month or two.
Lynn?
Okay. Mr. Pete, go ahead. Go ahead, Pete.
What about, you got the 5,000 in there, but we don't have the renewal in there. Do you need that renewal in there?
I think that was part of it. Yeah. It was just an amendment to the fee schedule.
Okay, I was just looking at the language where it says 5,000 and didn't say anything else.
Thanks for clarifying. That was not me. Thanks for clarifying that, Pete.
So it should be part of the motion? Not the
just-
verb, the 2,500.
That was part of the discussion, I guess.
You feel better.
I think if you guys agree to amend the fees structure to accommodate the marijuana facilities, that would be enough for us to administer.
Okay. Does that sound good, Mr. Clerk?
Yeah, I had it on mine as I didn't have an issue with, I saw the 5,000 and the 2,500 renewal, so that I'll put that in the motion.
Okay. All right. We're finished with that, right? I didn't,
Yep.
gotta check that off. Okay. Consider allocation of $1,500 from the 2020 budget for new light poles in 2021. When I was going through the payables in the budget last month after the last meeting, I noticed that we had 1,500 allocated to lighting. We've talked about this at various levels, board and planning and roads and everything else. And I confirmed with Manager Kangas that the 1,500 was just put right back into the fund balance at the end of the year because we didn't use it. So I said, well, since that has been a topic of discussion before, why don't we ask the board if they want to actually spend the money, take it back out of the fund balance and do some lighting. One of the conversations I had this week with a resident was, their child is walking to school to get to the bus and their particular street was dark. So that it just reaffirmed the fact that we really need to look at this. And we've spent time, Pete can tell you that, talking about adding more lights. So thought I'd throw it out and see what you think. If you want to, I don't know how many poles or how many lights that'll get us. Sometimes we can just replace the lights and use existing poles, or so the roads committee kind of talked about that. We could send it back to them if you want to. Mr. John Kangas?
I guess I just wanted to mention that this year's budget actually reduced that 1,500 to 1,000. And that was one of the cost saving measures we did. But if you're interested in resurrecting that 1,500 that rolled into the fund balance at the end of the year to use this year, then the recommendation ultimately would be to do a budget amendment to add 1,500 back into the existing 1,000 for a total of 2,500 in repair and maintenance for streetlights. And then when we decide where to put the new poles, that's how we pay BLP to install those poles for us.
Who was first? I don't know. Miss Linda?
So currently, the lighting in the township, I'm assuming this is someone who is in an area where there are bus stops and walkable streets. Are the lights not on current poles that were there, Board of Light and Power poles already there? And do we need to ask the Board of Light and Power what it is that we need to pay for, so we know how much money we have to spend and get it spent and get those lights up?
One of the, I believe, I don't know if it's a policy or an ordinance now that I think about it, says that we will do lighting every 300 feet. And in some of the discussions with the road committee, they realized that that's not feasible in some cases because of our terrain. And sometimes we have put or tried to put lights on certain streets and the residents have objected. So we've kind of gone back and forth, and I think that's some of the reason why the money doesn't get spent every year. We just keep rebudgeting it and talking about it. So, you know, when I first started to think about it, like I said, and then I talked to this resident afterward and went, hey, this is a no-brainer. We need to relook at it. So that's kind of the reasons, you know.
Yeah, and you know,
And
it's
some, like
really,
I said,
it's really about safety. It's our safety for our residents. And I know everybody doesn't like a light shining in their bedroom window, but it's about safety. And I guess they may have to figure something out. That's what I'll say. So if our
Yeah.
ordinance or whatever says every 300 feet, we should either follow the ordinance or change the ordinance. Because somebody's going to take us to task for that.
yeah. Let's start with Mr. Pete, because I know being on the committee, he's got some more information.
In my discussion with Ryan and a couple weeks ago, we talked about street lighting and that, and we're talking about, when I go ride around at night, I see there's, and I discussed this with Ryan, some of the problem is we have lights on the intersections, but they can't see it because of the branches and stuff like that. And I feel that, well, maybe we need to have a deduction. If it's supposed to shine 30 feet and we're only getting 5 feet or 10 feet underneath it, well, there's a problem there. There's a problem in hills. If you go on Cherry Street off of Ontario, we got hidden driveways with no lights. They say on all curves, on hills, on the top of the hills. So they're placed in the wrong spots. On the corner of Linda knows this for sure, but on the corner of Erickson and Fair, where it goes down in the gully there and it comes back up Fair, the street light is up on towards the hill more. It's not even showing on the intersection because of the creek going through there. I understand that, but there are ways of doing it. You could position the light so it goes better and put an LED light in there. And they are lots of dark areas. I've told a story before, but this one lady was walking and I pull up to her and I asked her, I said, it's dark for when you're walking. You know, she stuck back a little bit and, you know, I said, whoa, you know, then I try to explain to her that I just come from a road committee meeting. We talked about lighting and then she opened up a little bit and it is dark. And we got narrow roads. We don't have shoulders of the roads. Going down, even down Ontario, there's no light on top of the hill. There's so many that we got marked, and Ryan can attest to this because we've been talking this for about a year or so, and we're not taking care of the ordinance that we have. So I would say forget about the 300 feet right now. Let's get them at the intersection. Let's work with the light and power about getting these trees trimmed and see what we got and install the LED lighting, because if you're going to put in all the lighting that should be there, your budget won't touch that. I don't care the next 5 years budget to put together. There's still not enough money in there for poles and lighting. And we need the help from the light and power to trim back. So let's take advantage of what we have out there first. And then let's find out what trees and what intersections and what streets are so dark. They're all dark. They don't all have lights in the middle of it. Over here, a couple of streets up from my house, there's a person who had a light in his driveway facing his house and he was paying for it. I said, what are you putting it facing your house for? Turn it out to the street so the benefit could be out there. I said, and then we have to pay for it. Oh boy, he said, well, you did that. That was 2-3 years ago. You know, he thought that was a good idea. Well, it helped us too. So we got to be cautious, but we have to do the improvements where it's going to make the best, best thing to take care of. And it's dark. A lot of people are walking. I see them walking by the house here. It's so dark, you can't see nothing and no light. There people are using bikes at night with no lights on and nothing on their jacket. It drives me crazy. So I just think of safety first. So Ryan's on the right track. He's doing a great job, I'll tell you.
Wait, come on.
If you don't know what Ryan is doing, you talk to him, but now you'll have a coffee.
Ice cream. Yeah, Bob.
Ice cream, where? All right, that's all I have to say.
Okay, Mr. Marks, you had your hand up first.
one of the reasons I was intended to vote for this is that the road committee, pardon me, last year identified areas that needed to have lighting done to them. But when they looked at the area, there were no posts there to put these lights on. So taking the beginning of this, getting some posts available with the money that we have at hand, so that those areas again could be looked at, that were looked at and approved before, but could not be served because they didn't have posts to put those lights on. So I think it's a good thing for now. And I'm pleased to hear the road committee is going to take a long look at the overall big problem about lighting.
They have been for a while. Clerk Rattari, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to move to make a motion to allocate that $1,500 to the 2021 budget for street lighting poles.
Okay. Would you
Support
want to, thanks, Linda. Would you want to actually pass it off to the road committee then to make a recommendation as part of the motion?
No, that's fine. We're just allocating the money. It's
Okay,
going to be a budget amendment that the board has to come back with approval anyway, so.
okay. Okay, Mr. Ernie?
No, it's gonna be a budget amendment regardless of what happens in that.
Yeah,
Okay, Mr. Pete again?
I think, Ryan, when your discussion with the Light and Power, do they have any obligation as far as placing poles at intersections where streets intersect each other? That's just a question. I don't know if they should, or, I mean, they got power lines. Do you think they put the power lines at the intersections and instead of us paying for putting up poles all over? And
You're asking if they have obligation to put streetlights at the poles at the intersection or poles themselves at the intersection?
Poles themselves, and then we put the light on. And also,
Yeah.
did you ask them about putting a light on top of the hill by our, as you enter Marquette Township on that curve up on Wright Street? That's another thing I think they should do.
Yeah, and when we discussed this, we took a lot of your comments and a lot of the road committee members' comments in previous meetings. We came up with those maps, a few maps as far as where new lights could be added to existing poles or where poles could be added that aren't currently existing. But also, like you just said, when you last spoke, a lot of the problem is having them go by and trim a lot of these existing lights. So we've actually had BLP budge a bit, and they're going to be taking a stab at that the last week of this month. I think that's going to be like the 18th, 22nd. They're going to be starting to trim in Trowbridge area. So if you see that activity, we've given them kind of like a layout area. So they're going to start trimming. And then it's really up to us as to if we want to add lights to existing poles. I mean, I think they're going to gladly add their lights to existing poles if that's what we want and if that's what we pay for. It's like $12 monthly additional fee. And as far as the new lights or new poles go, that depends on where they are, what materials they're made of. Say if you wanted a new pole like on Cornerstone Drive in the business park, those are like fiberglass utility poles. That's going to be like $1,500, and it's all underground wiring. Whereas some other areas in Truro might be $500, $600, $800 per pole. But just so you know, Pete and everyone else knows, is they're going to start trimming like this month, and hopefully that will curb some of the issues with the existing lights.
Thank you, Ryan.
Miss Linda?
So if they're gonna start trimming, I would certainly suggest that you let the residents know via an email or on a utility bill that that's gonna happen. People will be calling the township hall concerned that someone's trimming trees. But the other thing that I really want to know is, are all the lights used LED, are they all using LED bulbs or are none of them using LED bulbs?
No, they just replace them.
Yeah, if they're not currently LED, if they're
Yes.
the high sodium vapor, the older version,
Yes.
the BLP will replace those free of charge, but only at their end of life. So
Okay,
once they're burnt out, they'll get replaced free of charge. We can request it, but it'll be a little fee for us.
so LED is cheaper, correct? This is less,
Yeah, efficiency wise to run possibly, but
Yeah.
not to the bill.
not to the bill.
Yeah, not to the
That's
bill.
an interesting concept. Not to the bill, but they are saving money. And how still charging us the same, that might be a discussion item.
Well,
Just saying.
Linda, if the lights burn out, they'll replace them at no charge with LED.
Yeah, well, some of them do get burnt out and some of them get knocked out. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
That's happened through the times, but I'm happy to have lighting. That for someone who grew up with no lighting, I'm happy to have some lighting, so not complaining here.
Mr. Jason?
Yeah, just to add on to the work that Ryan and the road committee have done, there are maps, and we treated the lighting much like we treated the road repairs in 2015. We cross-referenced that those specific roadways with whether or not it was on a bus route, whether or not it was an avenue of approach for emergency services, whether it was part of a complete street map. So as far as the order of how they get put in, that's pretty much spelled out, and Ryan in recent meetings has delineated that, which is great. And so yeah, we use kind of an access or an asset management approach to lighting. So I just wanted to add that it's not something that we're just spitballing. There are reasons why. And then our zoning ordinance not only talks about every 300 feet, but at the apexes of corners, at the tops and bottoms of hills. So yeah, there's a lot of places in the community that already have poles that would just need a light because of the feature that's there, and oftentimes the poles coincide with the natural feature that's there anyway. They have to tie into the top of that hill and then they have to run it down to the bottom of the hill. So we'll cross-reference those, but Ryan and the road committee's done a lot of work already on where and when, if we have some money to work with.
So Jason, just know that the schools, are you talking about school bus runs? When you talk about bus runs?
All buses, yeah, all forms of transportation. So I think we looked at the Marquette route as well, right, Ryan?
Yep, they were on there.
Yeah, school bus runs change. I can tell you that. I think they change based on population of students.
Okay, yeah, and that's something we can visit over time. But if we get to the point where, eventually over time and through attrition of those old metal halides or whatever they were, lights, we'll get to a point where hopefully they're not needed in other areas and we've covered our ordinance. But yeah, it's something that we've been talking about for quite a while, and it's nice to have some fresh attention to it again.
Well, Jason, a lot of what the changes I've seen in the last 3-4 years is that the buses are leaving the kids out on intersections and then the kids walk down the street. So that's what makes it more important that we have some kind of lighting in the streets.
Okay. After all that, I think we already have our motions, correct?
We do.
Or did we? Mhm.
We did.
Okay, go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay, so the motion is to allocate the $1,500 from the 2020 budget to the new polls in 2021. So Clerk Rattari is yes, Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Big Bay.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Excellente. John Kangas, I think you had your hand up and you put it down. Were you going to say something before?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. Trustee Winslow made a very valid point in that when you take these high pressure sodium fixtures out of service and replace it with an LED, there is a significant cost savings in the power per fixture utilized every time it turns on, but we aren't being charged for the new fixture. So the cost of the fixture is rolled into that monthly fee. I don't know how exactly it breaks down because those numbers we're not privy to, but I just wanted everyone to be aware that, you know, I don't think BLP is getting rich off of putting new LED fixtures up for us at no charge. We are paying for the cost of the fixture with our monthly power bill per fixture. So just wanted to be clear on that.
Good point. Thank you. Okay, let's move
Now-
to consider resolution.
Sorry, Lynn.
Sorry,
The reason
Go
we
ahead.
need the money is to install poles where they don't currently exist, if everyone wasn't clear on that.
okay. Consider resolution for authorization to allow local residents to protest in writing to the Board of Review. And Ms. Dulcie is with us to talk about a quick update anyway. We do have one form to look at. We've got a couple more that the state is giving us examples. So Dulce, go ahead and explain that for them,
So
please.
the resolution that I put together before the township board grants us the authority to receive written appeals from residents. So with the COVID precautions, we are being advised by the MTA to post our meetings virtually and have an option for in-person depending upon what orders are in place at the time of our meetings. With the current running through February 21st and our notices needing to be mailed out February 22nd, no later, and to get the posting, MTA has come out and said, you will probably be having virtual meetings, meaning we will be getting a lot of our protests in writing since we won't be allowing the public in. So we have to have this resolution in place in order to keep our board review legal and authorizing for any protests from residents. Because according to law, if you don't have this resolution in place, you can't receive any written protests from a resident that lives in your community. So this is just to cover us for the potential for virtual meetings, that we have the resolution in place that it grants us the authority to receive written protests from any taxpayer, or I should say from a resident that resides within Marquette Township. If we didn't have that, we'd be, I think, in a big problem with us probably having virtual meetings coming forward and not having the avenue or the resources to be able to have people, you know, come in to bring in their petitions. So this is to cover us for our virtual meeting expectations. Now, I know Lynn had mentioned there's going to be other ordinances that were going to be coming through. We received notice late yesterday from the MTA that has the specific language we would need for the new guidelines that were passed for the poverty exemptions. That if somebody were on a fixed income, the law was just passed that they only have to apply once and they get it for 3 years. Well, we have to have a resolution in place to grant that review of application, to approve the application by the state tax commission that was authorized, and also put in an amendment as to the income guidelines that would be expected for the fixed income and the asset level. So we finally received that, and I wanted to at least give you guys a heads up. We will get the information out to the board members prior to, because I'd be looking for approval at the next board meeting, which I believe is what, February 16th?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, so I would just want to have a packet, but I would want to print everything for you, get it out to you guys probably tomorrow. And also, I talked with John Kangas earlier today about how we are going to be doing our board review meetings. In my preference is to go all virtual for this, being that it's going to be so difficult and confusing, because I have a feeling, and everything I'm hearing from Lansing, from all my counterparts and state employees that I work with, it's anticipated that the public meetings are not going to be opened up until after at least March 31st. So I would rather be very proactive and make this just our procedures that we're going to go forward with, because I have to have it posted either way. So John and Randy both offered their assistance to help me put together the Zoom meetings on the appropriate dates and times, so we can publish that in the paper and also publish it on the assessment change notices, so the public could protest. But without the resolution that I put before you today, we wouldn't be able to receive their written protest. So that's why I wanted to make sure we have this now, so that way we can move forward with doing the proper posting.
Okay. Randy, do you need to read this resolution?
No, it'll be in the minutes, but the resolution will be 2021-0202.
0202?
Yeah, because it's today's date.
Okay, 2021-0202. Okay. Well, let's see. I think my name is in here somewhere. It says the supervisor declared the motion carried. Okay, so I'll make the motion that we take staff's recommendation on resolution 2021-0202 for authorizing local residents to protest in writing to the March Board of Review. Does it have to be March, Dulcie? Does it have to specify March?
At this point, I believe it reads in the resolution that it covers March Board Review. And for July and December, it does refer to both of the other sessions. Letters must be received by 5 p.m. So if we have anything that changes over the next calendar year, you can rescind this resolution if you needed to do so. But for the time being, I think we'd be better off to, since it includes July and December, that we carry it through the consistency of the entire calendar year.
Support.
Okay. All right, any comments, questions? Okay, roll call, clerk, please.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the resolution for authorization to allow local residents to protest in writing to the Board of Review. So Supervisor Durant,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Clerk Rattari is yes. So motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks for hanging in there too.
Yep, no problem.
All right, next up is consider liability and property insurance renewal notice. Mr. Angus, that falls to you.
Yeah, so this policy renews January 1, and it did automatically renew. What we need to do is get authorization to pay the invoice, and you'll see in the packet, it actually was a reduced premium this year. We saved about $1,000, which is always good. That's not to say that this coming year, we aren't going to see if we can even save more money. We're going to shop the way we should every once in a while to make sure that we're getting the best price for the taxpayers. But at this point, we do need to pay the renewal premium, which is before you.
Okay. Randy?
I'll move to, let me get that. I'll move to approve the invoice for the 2021 liability and property insurance renewal of Hanula Agency Incorporated in the amount of not to exceed $25,334.
Second.
Okay, motion and support. Any comments, questions? Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Okay, again, the motion is to approve the liability and property insurance renewal invoice, and Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
All right, thank you. Lots of business tonight. All right, we've got public comment. Do we have any emails, Randy?
We have not since we've been here for me.
Okay. Anybody else who's on board here want to make any comments before we finish up?
I would have a question for John.
Well, we're going to do managers reports in a second.
All right, now wait.
And we've got announcements. Anybody want to do any announcements? Randy?
Okay, so I've been in the last month or two, and Supervisor Durant and Manager Kangas sat in our last meeting. I've been looking at some software called Civic Clerk. And I will email you guys a link to our meeting that we had the other day. And it looks promising as far as trying to streamline agendas and in the clerk's office, getting things going more electronic and paperless and save a lot of time moving forward, hopefully. So we're going to hopefully meet with the rep on Thursday and see what his proposal is, and hopefully come back with a proposal to you folks the next meeting if it's amenable. So I don't know if Manager Kangas or Supervisor Durant have anything to say about the demo meeting we had, but I thought it was pretty good and get us moving in the way we should be moving, I believe.
Yeah, Andra's not on the meeting tonight, but I think if I would dare to speak for her, she would probably agree with me that using this software to prepare our packets, keep track of all of our documents would be a very significant improvement in time efficiency around the office. It would also add a few factors in there that require us as staff, me in particular being one of them, to get everything in on time. That way Andra's not hounding me at 1 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon for my report. It's already in there because I had to meet the deadline. It's requiring you to meet the deadline. So that's a nice little feature. I think overall though, the software is a pretty powerful tool that seems very user-friendly. I would not say that it's going to lead us down the road that we went with Cartograph. I think this is far more user-friendly. So let's see what the price tag is. And I think if it's a good price tag, I would support Secretary on it right away.
Well, and another thing is too, is it makes our agendas, minutes, and packets searchable, which we don't have really in PDF format, which is really we don't have right now. So anything we upload to the software becomes searchable. So if we put minutes in there for the last 10 years, which we can do, they're all searchable immediately. So that really makes it more of a powerful tool for us than what we currently have. So
I can't tell you how many times previous manager and I were trying to find a motion or minutes. In fact, Randy and I did too a few times. And that's actually why I put that motions book together, and Randy's been keeping it up because we were looking for motions and couldn't find them. So, you know, Randy's on one computer and I'm in my office and we're trying to find keywords or whatever. This Civic Clerk program, you just do like a control find or something and you can type in keywords. It'll take you to all the minutes or all the agendas that have those words. It'll save tons of time. That's what Randy was just talking about. So that's a biggie that I see, and I'm hoping it won't be too expensive because the demo was pretty neat. They were zipping through it pretty quickly. You know, the arrow was just kind of going all over. Here, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this. So once we know how it applies to us, that'll be a big thing. But, you know, Randy can click a button and all of our names will pop in and we could actually get to the point, and I don't know that this board will, but you could actually do your little voting on the screen pretty much, and then it'll pop in, and it's a little more electronic than this board I think wants to handle, but for the clerk and the secretary receptionist, it's awesome to put this together. So that, Randy, we'll see. The board can watch it.
yeah, so we'll see. We're hopefully going to meet with the rep on Thursday and see what kind of a price tag he has for us, and we'll move either forward or either try to negotiate with him, because we're not going to get the super extravagant package, because we're not going to do meeting manager, and we're not going to tie the agendas in that to the video yet because that will move in baby steps, but hopefully someday we'll get there.
When Richard did his presentation for us with the new website, because that's Civic CMS is the company that's providing the new website. He gave me a presentation, and Civic Clerk was one of the modules that you could buy. So I forwarded off to Randy and I said, hey, I think this looks great just from looking at the bare bones of it. So that's kind of where we got this company. It's not somebody that we just found online, although Randy did bring a couple to us a few years ago, if you remember. And that was the whole purpose, is to streamline his job. He spends hours in there typing minutes and, you know, copying motions over and then giving it to Andra, and she's doing the agenda and doing another one and doing another one and adding this one. So it'll definitely save a lot of time for those two people, if nobody else, and make John more accountable. So that's good. Okay, any other announcements? I've been retired for 6 weeks as of today. It feels pretty good.
Just sink in, eh?
Pardon?
Just sink it in.
Yeah. Nothing else? Okay, now we can go to the manager's report. You had a question, Pete, for John?
Yes, on our list for skating at the ice rink, the hours and stuff like that. And what drives me, last year I brought it up about the little girl coming down the street with her dad, and she was crying, and I was walking up by the ice rink, and I was asking, what's the matter? Did she fall? No, they're playing hockey and they're not allowed to skate. And it just bothered me, you know, it just struck me wrong. So I asked John about the hours that we're doing there, and somebody else could come up with something, or if everyone thinks it's all right, it's all right. But when they got 13 and a half hours of hockey on one day with no open skating, and then the other ones I know that are splitting, but like on a Sunday from 8:30 to 1, you know, is open skating. I mean, who the hell gets up 8 o'clock on Sunday morning and takes their kids over there? That don't, I don't know. Maybe we can do some difference in hours. I don't know. And I'm not dumping on John because I asked him, I talked to John about this too, and he just said, well, he said, and I told him I don't like to blindside anyone on a question, but he said, bring it up. Maybe somebody got some other thoughts. I talked to the lady who lives right across the street from it, and I asked her, what time are the kids going over there in the morning? And she said somewhere about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, the kids usually show up. But now with school going to be starting, you know, if we don't have the kids aren't going to skip school and go skating at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 to 1. So is there another way of looking at this? I don't know. I said, one day I was going to bring up and say, well, we could use that for a pickleball court, and then we can plow the ballpark for ice rink. But that wouldn't go very far. So I don't know. It just struck me that little girl's crying hits me. You know, I mean, it's just different. And if somebody got some other suggestions, or this is the best we can do, and that's the best we can do. You know, I don't hockey. Are we talking the kids playing hockey, or are we talking league hockey, or what? Now, that's what my question. I didn't get time to talk to John very much the other day, so. But I just thought I'd bring it up and have somebody look at it, and is there a better way of doing it, and to make sure we take care of everybody, because it's there for everyone. You know, not only just the small kids and the people who like to skate. I asked John about the little kids with a hockey stick. Well, we're not supposed to have hockey. Well, sometimes the parents give a hockey stick to a little kid for balance, you know, and they're not playing hockey, just use it for pushing them along. So I don't know. And the reason I asked John about it and brought up my ideas, because John's the father, you got young kids, you got young ideas and different things like that. And I really appreciate that. So that's my feeling. I just think, is there someone got different ideas, or they feel the same, or they don't feel the same as I do? I don't, you know, I'm not judging anyone, but I just want I know, is there a better way of doing it? Sometimes there's no better way of doing it, so. That's just an old man talking, that's all.
If you don't mind, I'd like to respond to that to some extent because Pete does have a valid point. We have 3 days during the week that are allocated to hockey and only 2 for open skating. So there is an imbalance there in finding the right balance if we're going to try to dedicate it 50-50 to each use. I think that's appropriate. I'm not opposed to taking this back to our staff, Lenny and Andy and Amanda, and taking a closer look at the schedule and seeing if it makes sense to revise it a little bit. But it might also make sense to have the rec committee take a closer look at it, but also talk to some of the users and see if it doesn't make sense to say, we don't really need to dedicate these hours to hockey because most people aren't going to play hockey at that time anyway. Let's let the open skaters use it. If it's open skate, you don't have to resurface before the hockey players show up. But if it's hockey players first, you do have to resurface for the open skaters because they chew it up pretty good. These kids are pretty aggressive skaters. They groove it up, and then the ice becomes unsafe for the inexperienced skaters. So it's something that we should probably be looking at all the time and adapt when necessary.
Yeah, I would think we could go back to the rec committee and see what they think. Besides, we have a new member, and I think his kids play hockey and they use the rink for open skating too. So I'm sure he'll have an opinion. Miss Linda?
We see what the other rinks in the community are doing to see how we are patterning, if the same as they are or if they're opposite days. Because in reality, Negaunee Township and Chalkley rinks aren't that far for people. So, you know, are we on the same hockey days as they are, or are we on opposite hockey days, or just something to kind of think about? You know, hockey players will go skate at 8:30 in the morning on Sunday, if that's the time they have. So I realize they do chew up the ice, but we're also talking about 8-year-old hockey players. And I do also know that in our community, there are a lot of backyard ice rinks this year. So yeah, it's been an interesting time, and I'm glad we have an ice rink.
Mr. Roger.
This is not legal comment. This is more public comment. I can say that I have been skating at the rink with 4-year-olds during public skating when there is hockey playing, but everybody has coexisted, and the people with sticks and pucks have been extremely respectful and kind of took half of the ice, and the little kids took the other half of the ice, and there was no issue. Everybody coexisted, at least you know, on the limited occasion when I've been there with pretty little kids. So it might not be as huge of an issue as we might think all the time too.
Good info. Anything else for the manager? Or you want to talk about your report, John?
I certainly can. And what I ended up putting in my report this week is actually in response to some of the things that Trustee Winslow brought up at your last meeting, and that is how many grants staff is pursuing currently, or we've already been funded for and we're spending the money on. When you start looking at it on paper, it's pretty significant. And kudos goes to our staff for staying on top of all these different applications. You talked about 2 of them tonight with the recycling carts, $70,000 worth of carts that the residents are not going to pay for beyond what they're already paying for in the garbage bill. So that's a pretty big deal. What the township ends up paying for is whatever carts we order that don't go to a resident right away, if we're keeping it for future growth, which we are planning to. And then our share of the education cost. We have to do some education on this stuff as part of the grant requirement. So We're waiting to hear on several, and I'm hoping we're successful on the majority, if not all of them.
What about glass, John? Anything?
The elephant in the room, glass.
Well, not really.
We don't really have any updates beyond what you've heard previously. Unfortunately, the idea that Trustee Marks presented to us isn't going as quickly as I had hoped. I got to get Lenny on board with that one and let him run with it, because that's probably the only way it's going to make it any further, because right now it's in the dark hole called my office. So we need to take a look at that as an option. I think it's a really good one to consider if we can figure out a way to make it happen. And we'll bring you more details on it if it ends up working out. Just know that it is a good idea. So we are not doing curbside glass collection. Marquette City is the only municipality currently doing it, and they are having a really tough time with it because it is not their normal schedule. They are taking the first week of every month and collecting it curbside. The problem is, when we went to a single stream recycling program, now you change 1 week to glass, people are inevitably going to get it wrong. They're either going to put their normal single stream out on a glass day, or they're going to mix their glass with their fibers and plastics when it can't be mixed. It's got to be source separated. That's the issue with glass, because you can't get broken glass fibers in the fibers or in the plastics. It contaminates that material and makes it less valuable when it goes to market. So the other issue, as I stated before, it's really hard on the contractor's equipment. Glass is really heavy. So the heavy loads are going to force them to empty quicker. And when the glass breaks in their equipment, it's really harsh on the mechanical equipment. So that's why we don't have it currently, in addition to the fact that it's not specifically itemized in our contract with North Country Disposal. So if it was specifically itemized, I'm sure they'd be working with us to make it work, even though it would probably be begrudgingly. It's just one of those things where we haven't completely adapted yet. Marquette Township doesn't have a suitable place that can be monitored and that can be controlled so we don't have abuse. We don't want dumpsters filled up with trash that's supposed to be for collecting glass. And that's really what Trustee Marks's idea is all about, is trying to eliminate that abuse. So.
On the solid waste side, I've had a couple notes from their last meeting. They've got grants that they're going to try to work on next month for the larger scale of glass recycling. They're seeing a lot more in the aluminum side, and there's more grants for that too. And they're getting actually more aluminum in the landfill. So they're trying to make sure that gets separated out too. And the other thing was, they're still working with MTU, Michigan Tech, on visiting with them about their glass usage, possible purchase, and trying to use it on the roads and stuff was kind of the original intent. The landfill received 427 tons of recyclables, and they shipped out 386 tons. So that's, it doesn't give a percentage. Oh, 6 to 9%. And the national average is 15 to 27%. So they're making more inroads in recycling in general, just not so much from the glass side. They're still struggling with that. Anything else for the manager?
No, he's doing a good job.
I'm happy. We talk pretty much every day. All right, Mr. Clerk, do you want to review our motions?
Okay. First motion was to approve the consent agenda as presented, and that was approved. The second motion was to approve the regular agenda as amended, and that was approved. Third motion was to approve the letter of support for the Iron Ore Heritage Trail for acquiring property, directing the supervisor to write a support letter on behalf of Marquette Township, and that was approved. Fourth motion was to approve Tom Ferry to the Recreation Committee for a 2-year term, and that was approved. Fifth motion was to approve the purchase of recycling carts, and that was approved. The sixth motion was to approve the Township Impala as a surplus asset. That was approved. The seventh motion was to approve the marijuana fee schedule, and that was approved. The eighth motion was to allocate $1,500 from the 2020 budget to the 2021 budget for new light poles, and that was approved. And the ninth motion was to approve the resolution to allow local residents to protest writing to the Board of Review, and that was approved. And the 10th motion was to approve the liability and property insurance renewal invoice from Hanula, and that was approved.
Okay. Point of clarification, I just had a question. The surplus vehicle says it's a Impala, but I think, John, you said it was a Dodge Charger?
No, that's what we're getting.
Oh, we're getting the Charger.
Yep.
The Impala is going. Okay, so the motion was on the Impala, so that would be correct.
Yep.
Gotcha. Thank you.
The Charger will be the
Impala is
next
the
one
S.
in probably 3 or 4 years we'll get rid of.
Right. Okay, thanks. So for right now, the only thing I have for the next agenda is a possible resolution for the Board of Review, maybe even 2, but more than likely just 1. Anything else for the agenda? Just let me know or give John a call or write it in until we get our new software anyway. Any board member comment? Yes, Miss Winslow.
I have 2 comments. I live close to Huron Street, and Huron Street residents we're having some issues with road abandonment, and I think maybe that went to Roger to look at some roads that were supposedly abandoned long ago, but it never went through the correct process. They're wondering where we're at with that. And so if Roger can address that at the next meeting, that would be great. And the second thing is that tomorrow is first Wednesday drop off. So those people who are able to recycle glass can bring it to the drop off site. And I'm not sure what time it's open. I'm thinking 12 to 6, but maybe someone can help me out on that, John Kangas.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
one of those windows of time that I haven't dialed down on my brain yet. I thought it started at 10, but unfortunately I can't let you quote me on that.
Oh, well, it's tomorrow.
It is tomorrow.
I think it's noon to 6, I think.
Bring your wine bottles and pickle jars up there and you can get rid of them for free.
Yeah, and all your junk, don't dump it in the woods.
You don't need to clean it up in Forestville.
Yeah, really. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. You happen to know Roger to comment on that, or should we wait
Yeah,
till
they are
next meeting?
represented by an attorney, so we came up with a plan and I'm kind of waiting to hear. I think there's a shortcut. The technically correct way to do it is to amend the plat. And nobody wants to amend the plat. But we came up with a solution, and that was passed on to their attorney. I can give him a call in the next couple days and see where he's at with that, because I had posed it, if we did this, does that work? And it was kind of left at, I'll get back to you on that, and I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, we need some resolution to it so we can kind of move on. Thank you.
Maybe we'll know by the next meeting then for your report. Okay, anything else? Any other board member comments? Okay, I guess we're finished then.
I move to adjourn then.
Second,
Okay, roll call?
Okay, the motion is to adjourn. Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Winslow,
yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Marks,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and I got 8:20 PM.
Yes, sir, so do I. We are adjourned.
Okay, Roger,